Hello, everyone, and welcome to Red Cloud's Pre-PDAC Fall Mining Showcase. It's my distinct pleasure to introduce to you for the next presentation, the President and CEO of NorthIsle Copper and Gold, Sam Lee. Over to you, Sam. Thanks very much for joining us today.
Thanks, Seb, and good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for Red Cloud for hosting us today. It's a great way to kick off our PDAC, which will prove to be, I'm sure, very busy next week. So for those of you who don't know me, I joined NorthIsle in October 2020 with a mission to build the leading sustainable resource company for the future. I've been very encouraged with how quickly the world has evolved towards the fundamental principle of social and environmental sustainability, which is at the core of what we do. So in this context, our North Island project, which is based in British Columbia, represents one of the most attractive copper and gold projects in Canada and perhaps even the world, not only because of the economics, but its proximity to existing infrastructure, which reduces costs and overall footprint, as well as access to cheap and clean power, which is the backbone for developing a carbon neutral project. High quality projects in mining friendly jurisdictions that can be developed sustainably are incredibly rare. And we believe that our North Island project will set the mold on how these types of projects are developed in the future. We have the core nucleus and, more importantly, the desire to deliver on this mission. And I'm very happy to have this opportunity to introduce you to the story today. Please note that during the course of this presentation, I will be making forward-looking statements, and I encourage you to read the following slide for additional notes about the forward-looking nature of the information we are discussing today. So we recently completed a PEA with quite superior economics for a large, long-life copper-gold porphyry system. The study contemplates the production of approximately 100 million pounds of copper and 100,000 ounces of gold per year over a 22-year mine life, and more than $300 million per year in potential cash flow over the first 6 years, meaning that we pay back the capital in just under 4 years. This project is also very low cost, with a first quartile all-in sustaining cost of 90 cents per pound or 77 cents per pound in the first 6 years. A true differentiator, as I mentioned before, is our focus on sustainability. So we'll discuss this a little bit more in the presentation later on, but we're probably one of the few PEA stage companies to put an intense focus on our project impact metrics, including energy and greenhouse gas impacts. We've got an exceptional team of proven mine finders, developers, and financiers that have been involved in projects that have had a formative influence on the industry over the past 5 decades. We're in a great jurisdiction, as I mentioned, in BC, with a well-established permitting process, a fundamental respect towards engagement and consultation, and access to infrastructure, ports, and clean power that all make BC second to none on a global scale. Finally, as I mentioned, we've got an exciting portfolio of exploration targets spanning over 33,000 hectares of land tenements, where we are focusing on significant greenfield discoveries and expanding our current North Island project. So I strongly believe, as I said before, that North Isle is the time is now for North Isle. So as I mentioned previously, our team has many decades of experience in the resource industry, and we all have converged on this opportunity primarily because of our strong belief in copper. The simple reality is that there's a fundamental shift in demand happening, and the supply side isn't ready to meet with this demand. We're already seeing near-term all-time high prices for copper, which we believe is just the beginning, and will set the new base for the next cycle. The huge demand for electrification provides a number of benefits, both through increased needs for electrical distribution infrastructure, as well as within electrical vehicles, which use approximately 4 times the amount of copper from traditional vehicles. Electrification demand will only increase beyond this time period, affecting the disparity proportionally. So finally, in addition to total copper demand, we believe that there's going to be an increased stratification in the market for copper, with a premium paid not only to clean concentrates with low deleterious elements, but also for sustainably sourced metal as well. With sustainability at the core of who we are, as I mentioned, we believe we will be well positioned to capitalize on this shift. In terms of our corporate snapshot and capital structure, as you can see on slide 5, our capital structure is simple and clean. We have no debt, we have no warrants outstanding, and a very strong and supportive core shareholder base that are long-term in nature. Management and board are fully aligned with existing shareholders, owning approximately 16% and 22% on a fully basic and fully diluted basis, respectively. We recently announced an upsized $7 million financing, which fully funds our 2021 exploration program at an appropriate level of dilution with a clean share deal and no warrants. This is an example of how we protect our shareholders' interests and maximize their upside exposure by limiting excessive dilution. With the anticipated closing on March 17th, we will have approximately $10 million in cash and are well positioned to aggressively advance our strategy. It's worth noting that several insiders and key influential stakeholders are participating in the financing, showing a great level of support for this seed round. So one of my most important jobs as CEO is to match our resources with our vision. Slide 6 shows some of our key team members and highlights their experience. Dale is the founder of the company and for whom I've worked with closely for over a decade while I was an investment banker at CIBC. And with my capital markets experience, we can help Jack do what he does best, which is find large copper and gold porphyry deposits. So Jack McClintock was responsible for discovering BHP's Spence deposit, and a big reason why I joined the company, as there are not many proven mine finders of his caliber and experience left in our industry today. Kevin O'Kane brings development and operating credibility to the team throughout his 40 years of BHP and SSR experience. Kevin actually lived in Port Hardy for 12 years, where he rose to chief mining engineer for the adjacent Island Copper Mine, and has already been instrumental in discussions with key stakeholders. Kevin spent his career working on some of the most formative projects in the industry, including Escondida, Spence, Cerro Colorado, just to name a few. So on slide 7, we provide you with a bit more detail about the project itself. We own over 50 kilometers of a copper gold porphyry trend on the north end of Vancouver Island. Our Northlsle project has approximately 5 billion pounds of copper equivalent and indicated an additional 3 billion pounds of inferred. In gold equivalent, some people like to think of it in gold equivalent, that's approximately 9 million ounces of indicated, plus an approximately 3 million ounces of inferred gold equivalent. As we talked about, the project has about 22-year mine life with a competitive costs and significant production. In addition, we have several exploration targets, including Pemberton Hills, Red Dog, South and Northwest Expo. Each of these targets represent a potential for a significant additional porphyry deposit discovery, and we're testing them over the next 6 months. So slide 8 encapsulates our position as it relates to the development of the NorthIsle project on Vancouver Island. We control 100% of the property from end to end, and as you can see, we're just about 15 to 30 kilometers away from Port Hardy, which services the mining, forestry, and fishing industry. The key thing to note about this area is that it has a long history of responsible resource extraction. The access to existing infrastructure is remarkable, which results from being located adjacent to BHP's Island Copper Mine that was of similar size to what we're currently considering. As you can see, it's the green circle where the historic mine is located, as well as a network of roads leading to the site and our property. In addition, there's an extensive power infrastructure and tidewater access for concentrate shipping. So all in all, you really cannot get a better position for a developing mine anywhere in the world. So slide 9, you can see one of the other key factors that derive the attractive cost structure and margins at the NorthIsle project, which is very low from a strip ratio of being about 0.7 to 1. Red Dog contributes significantly to this strip and the mill feed for the first 6 years, and has a very low waste ratio. We see a high potential to expand the resource in this area with further drilling as well. Hushamu is our larger tonnage porphyry system which is a relatively predictable flat-lying structure. Step-out drilling has already demonstrated the deposit continues to the southeast and northwest, and our drilling this year is targeted further to expand the resource and potentially reduce eliminated waste. So, summary of the 2021 PEA identified a project that boasts an after-tax net present value at 8% of $1.1 billion Canadian, with a payback of 3.9 years and an IRR of nearly 20% based on a copper price of $3.25 per pound and gold price of $16.50 per ounce. So the result demonstrates that the economics for this project is not only attractive, but material based on any objective measure. So coupled with the fact that this project can be developed as a sustainable and carbon neutral operation, we believe that this makes one of the leading copper and gold development projects in Canada, if not the world. So the project is designed as a straightforward open pit mine mill with a simple flow sheet. Production costs are very competitive given the attractive power and existing infrastructure that I mentioned before. The project is currently contemplated, is anticipated to produce a high quality concentrate, which we anticipate to be very marketable to smelters worldwide. Furthermore, we see several opportunities to optimize this project, including the evaluation of the use of the nearby Island Copper Pit for tailings, metallurgical studies in support of a PFS, a pre-feasibility study, additional exploration, and other opportunities that not only improve the project economics, but reduce our footprint on the land. So very quickly on slide 11, you can see the project is very robust at conservative long-term metal price assumptions and is highly levered to the upside in metal prices. The spot case on this slide was contemplated in early February when copper prices were $3.50. That was a 25-cent increase from our base case, $3.25, which increased the project NPV by approximately $300 million. So every 25 cents increases the NPV by about $300 million. We now have a copper spot price of approximately almost $1 higher than our base case of $3.25, which obviously will have a profound impact on the project economics. So moving on to slide 12, this is really a slide that encapsulates the value proposition that we see for NorthIsle investors. Over my 20 years as an investment banker, I could confidently say that the two primary metrics on how to value a company of our nature are price to NAV and TV to resources. On both metrics, we see significant upside relative to our peer group, which gives me great confidence in my prior statement that our journey has just begun. So to put this in context, we are currently trading below 4% of our intrinsic value as defined by the analyst community. Our peers, comparatively speaking, are trading between 20 to 60% of their intrinsic value, or a 5 to 13 times higher multiple than where we are today. So therein lies the opportunity, put very simply. You can also see that we sit in a great spot where our project isn't so big that we can't build it ourselves, while it's not so small that it's not really appealing to a strategic partner. So this optionality, I think, is absolutely critical as we embark on the path to what I believe is the next copper supercycle. So on slide 13, you can see a breakdown of our capital costs. Keep in mind that these are all Canadian dollars. So on a US dollar Capex equivalent, the project is approximately $1.1 billion US Capex. So this, in my perspective, is a very financeable project in an active copper market, which obviously we are in today. Our capital intensity is very competitive at less than $15,000 per ton of daily throughput and less than $15,000 per annual ton of copper output. We see a number of ways to finance this $1.1 billion, including a potential gold stream, obviously at the right time, partnership with offtake and financing providers, as well as public and private sources of capital. On slide 14, you can see a summary of our operating costs at the 90 cents Canadian or 68 cents US of all-in sustaining costs per pound of copper. Net of byproducts would put us solidly in the first quartile of the copper all-in sustaining cost worldwide. As noted previously, our mining costs include the cost of leased mining equipment. On slide 15, you can see how our project compares to a selection of currently producing copper mines in BC. The main takeaway here is that we're in the right neighborhood in terms of grades, with multiple operating copper mines in BC spouting similar resource grades. The other point to highlight here is that about a third of our potential revenues will come from gold, which has a significant impact on our margins. As I mentioned, we could also use that gold to finance the project, as it also contributes to the attractiveness of the concentrates as well. On slide 16, you can see that we really are focused on being Canada's leading sustainable resource company for the future. While the metrics on this slide are preliminary and based on high-level benchmarking, it provides us with a starting place for us to consider how further to reduce the impact of the development of the North Island project. We have the opportunity in BC to consider the development of a truly low carbon impact mine. In addition, we want to connect with our communities by ensuring that we will work to support First Nations and local community objectives. Our project is currently conceived could employ over 450 people on a direct basis and would have a significant further impact on an indirect basis. So in terms of exploration, our program for the first half of 2021 will focus on two main concepts. In the near term, we're commencing an exploration drill program at Pemberton Hills. This is the large Berry Porphyry target, which has been identified through scout drilling programs, as well as geophysics, surface sampling, and sits under a 3.5 by 1.5 kilometer lithocap. In 2021, we're drilling 3 holes with the aim of hitting the underlying porphyry deposit, and this is our first target. Secondly, we will expand, improve, and increase confidence in the resource of the North Island project itself. There are several targets which we anticipate to contribute here. All told, we see the potential to increase the North Island project resource by adding about 200 to 400 million tons of material, as well as the potential for identifying higher grade mineralization. So this next slide just shows a quick overview of where we're targeting our Pemberton Hills program. This was a project that obviously attracted the likes of Freeport as part of a partnership, which we started in 2017. What attracted them was the similar styles that showed in the reservoir type deposits, or Timok in Serbia rather. So this partnership with Freeport has expired, and we're now fully financed to advance this project ourselves, which we're commencing immediately. The red represents where we plan on drilling, and we're going from between 600 meters depth at minimum to approximately 1,000 meters. So on Red Dog, we are focusing to the south. We have targets that Jack believes is an extension of the existing resource at a depth of approximately 200 to 300 meters. To the northwest, we have very significant IP anomalies, which we're going to be testing aggressively in the middle of the summer. And after that, we will be focusing on an area we call Northwest Expo, which will end up in 3 holes towards the end of the summertime. So just to wrap it all up, we're going to be extremely active this year in 2021. First, we are going to continue to work in order to rapidly advance our North Island project towards pre-feasibility study. This will include work with BHP and First Nations to confirm mutual interest using the island copper pit as a potential storage for their tailings facility. Second, upon closing of the financing, we'll be fully financed to aggressively explore our extensive property package with drill rigs scheduled for mid-March at Pemberton Hills. Thirdly, we'll be advancing our engagement with First Nation communities, government, and local stakeholders in order to ensure that we advance this project in a manner consistent with all of our values. And finally, we will advance our strategic options, including the foundational work with potential strategic partners, off-takers, financial partners, and others. Thanks very much for listening, and I'll hand it back to Seb.
Thanks, Sam. That was super comprehensive and well within time here. So we got a couple questions that maybe I'll try to jump through here quickly. So can you elaborate on how your relationship is with First Nations communities?
Yeah, so we deal with 3 First Nation communities. I'd say that our relationships with them have been extremely respectful. We are obviously moving forward towards the consultation and the engagement period. And that's our core and main focus today. There have been agreements in the past, including exploration agreements, that have allowed us to obviously advance our work program, and we look to advance those agreements with them as we develop the project moving forward. It's worth noting that the Quetzino First Nation group actually owns the surface rights for the BHP Island copper mine, but for the pit and the foreshore. So they are obviously economically tied to the success of any activity that goes through that area. So we're delighted to obviously be working with and consulting with them and all of the other two First Nation groups that are involved.
Well, thanks for that. And obviously also important to note, Vancouver Island has multiple other projects, as Sam mentioned. So it's not the first time that they'll be doing that in the area and moving a project forward. So with that, we've hit our 20-minute mark, but thanks very much, Sam. If anyone has any additional questions, please feel free to reach out to your Red Cloud rep. We'd be happy to have them answered for you. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks a lot. Bye-bye.